Picture this. You're walking through a prehistoric forest when suddenly the ground trembles beneath your feet. Trees sway, birds scatter. Then you see it, a creature so massive it makes modern grizzly bears look like house cats. Standing nearly 15 feet tall, weighing as much as 3 grand pianos, with jaws powerful enough to crush a horse's skull in a single bite. This isn't fiction. This isn't Hollywood. These monsters actually walked our planet. And if you think today's bears are impressive, wait until you discover what their ancestors were capable of. Before we dive into this incredible journey through time, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to learn will completely change how you see the natural world. The bears we know today are merely echoes of an ancient dynasty that once dominated every continent except Antarctica and Australia. Millions of years ago, bears weren't just survivors. They were apex predators and evolutionary masterpieces. Today, we're uncovering 5 prehistoric bear species that rewrote the rules of nature, each one more astonishing than the last. The migration that changed everything. 3 million years ago, a narrow strip of land emerged from the ocean, the Isthmus of Panama. This tiny land bridge connected North and South America after 150 million years of separation, triggering one of Earth's most dramatic ecological transformations. Thousands of species crossed in both directions. From the north came saber-toothed cats, wolves, and bears. From the south traveled giant ground sloths and armadillos. This wasn't peaceful. It was an invasion that would reshape life itself. South America had evolved in isolation as a paradise for herbivores. Massive plant-eaters thrived without significant predators. When northern hunters arrived, these defenseless giants faced brutal competition. Nearly half of South America's large mammals vanished within 1 million years. But this chaos created an opportunity for one particular species. Arctotherium, the largest bear ever. When Arctotherium first arrived in South America 1.7 million years ago, it was unremarkable, roughly the size of a modern black bear, maybe 400 pounds. But South America changed everything. With virtually no competition and abundant prey that had never learned to fear bears, Arctotherium evolved at breathtaking speed. Each generation grew larger. Within several 100,000 years, it had transformed into something unprecedented. By the time Arctotherium angustidens reached its peak around 800,000 years ago, adult males weighed up to 4,400 pounds, more than twice the weight of the largest polar bears alive today. When it reared up on its hind legs, this bear stood 13 to 14 feet tall, eye to eye with a basketball hoop. But size alone doesn't tell the whole story. What made Arctotherium truly terrifying was how it was built. Its skull measured over 20 inches in length, with a short, incredibly powerful snout designed for delivering devastating bites. The jaw muscles were so developed that scientists estimate their bite force exceeded 3,000 psi, strong enough to crush through the thigh bone of a giant ground sloth or crack open a prey animal's skull with a single chomp. For comparison, modern grizzlies max out around 1,200 psi, and even great white sharks bite at roughly 4,000 psi. This bear was in the same league as apex marine predators. The forelimbs were extraordinary masterpieces of predatory design, thick as tree trunks and packed with muscle. Each paw was the size of a dinner plate, armed with curved claws stretching 6 inches long. These weren't climbing tools like those of tree-dwelling bears. They were weapons of war. Arctotherium could bring down prey with a single swipe, powerful enough to snap the neck of a horse-sized animal or disembowel a giant ground sloth. The femur bones recovered from fossils are twice as thick as those of modern bears, designed to support that enormous weight while still allowing surprising agility for an animal of such massive proportions. Trackways preserved in ancient mud suggest that despite weighing over 2 tons, Arctotherium could move with deadly purpose when hunting or defending territory. Perhaps most remarkable was its sense of smell. Analysis suggests olfactory capabilities that dwarf even modern bears. Arctotherium could likely detect prey from 10 miles away. Despite being built like the ultimate killing machine, with every physical feature seemingly designed for predation, Arctotherium wasn't purely carnivorous. And this is where the story gets truly fascinating. For years, scientists assumed that anything this large and powerful must have been exclusively a meat eater, a hyper-predator at the top of the food chain. But detailed chemical analysis of tooth enamel, examination of microscopic wear patterns on teeth, and studies of fossilized stomach contents revealed something unexpected and remarkably sophisticated. This giant was an opportunistic omnivore with a varied diet. Chemical isotope analysis, specifically looking at carbon and nitrogen ratios preserved in tooth enamel, reveals that while meat made up approximately 60–70% of its diet, Arctotherium also consumed significant amounts of plant matter. The grinding surfaces of its molars show distinctive wear patterns consistent with processing tough vegetation, fibrous roots, hard nuts, and seasonal fruits. This wasn't occasional snacking. It was a deliberate dietary strategy that gave Arctotherium a massive evolutionary advantage over more specialized predators. Think about the implications of this adaptive strategy. Prehistoric South America was a land of extremes and unpredictability, with vast grasslands, humid rainforests, sprawling wetlands, and seasonal changes that could transform abundant regions into near deserts. Each environment provided unique food sources, and Arctotherium's dietary flexibility allowed it to exploit all of them. When hunting was good and prey was abundant, it could take down giant ground sloths, ancient horses, or large camelids, using its massive size and power to dominate kills. When prey was scarce during seasonal changes or regional droughts, it could survive on berries, roots, and vegetation, even digging for tubers with those powerful claws. During particularly harsh seasons, it likely turned to scavenging, using its intimidating size to drive smaller predators away from their kills. After all, what saber-toothed cat or pack of dire wolves would dare argue with a 4,000-pound bear? This adaptability allowed Arctotherium to thrive across diverse habitats, grasslands, forests, wetlands, and semi-arid regions. But evolutionary success is never permanent. By 400,000 years ago, the giants started disappearing, replaced by progressively smaller species. Climate change transformed landscapes, prey populations dwindled, and new competitors arrived with more efficient hunting strategies. The cruel mathematics of being giant, bigger bears needed more food. An adult Arctotherium required 30,000 to 40,000 calories daily. When prey became scarcer, the largest starved first. Natural selection reversed course, favoring smaller, more efficient forms. The last Arctotherium species disappeared 11,000 years ago. Yet the lineage survived. Today's spectacled bear of the Andes is a direct descendant of the mighty Arctotherium. Arctodus, the speed demon. While Arctotherium ruled the south, Arctodus simus dominated North America. Though slightly smaller, this giant was equally terrifying and built completely differently. Where Arctotherium was a tank, Arctodus was a race car. Adult males stood 11 to 13 feet tall when upright, weighing 1,800 to 2,200 pounds. Their legs were extraordinarily long, giving them a shoulder height of nearly 6 feet. The skeleton shows clear adaptations for speed: long limbs, reduced bone density, flexible joints, and feet pointing straight forward, rather than pigeon-toed like modern bears. Scientists estimate Arctodus could run 30 to 40 miles per hour, making it likely the fastest bear species in Earth's history. Imagine an animal the size of a small car charging at highway speeds. Nothing in its environment could outrun it. Not the horses, not the camels, not even the swift pronghorn antelope that evolved their remarkable speed partly as a defense against predators exactly like this. But Arctodus wasn't just about raw speed. The skull reveals devastating predatory power perfectly engineered for killing. The unusually short, broad snout, which gives the species its short-faced name, created tremendous mechanical leverage for the massive jaw muscles. When this bear bit down, the force was concentrated in a smaller area, making each bite more devastating than you'd expect from size alone. The enormous nasal cavity served a dual purpose. It allowed massive oxygen intake during high-speed pursuits, keeping the bear's muscles fueled during long chases, while also supporting an incredibly sensitive sense of smell that could detect prey or carrion from miles away. The eyes faced forward, set wide apart but providing excellent depth perception, a predator's trait for judging distances precisely when striking at prey. Recent research suggests Arctodus was primarily carnivorous, more so than Arctotherium. It likely hunted everything from deer and bison to young mammoths, possibly even stealing kills from smaller predators using its massive size advantage. Arctodus ranged across North America from Alaska to Mexico. Its extinction around 11,000 years ago coincided with the megafaunal extinction event. As large herbivores vanished, so did the hypercarnivorous predators depending on them. Arctotherium, Africa's forgotten giant. Before continuing, we must travel back in time to Africa, where the giant bear story actually begins with a species most people have never heard of: Arctotherium. Around 5 to 8 million years ago, Arctotherium africanum prowled the African continent. Unlike round, bulky modern bears, it was lean and muscular, built more like a massive lion. It had a short neck, an elongated snout, and powerful limbs carrying its 4,500 to 2,000 pound frame with surprising agility. What made Arctotherium remarkable were its teeth. Robust, conical canines were designed specifically for crushing bone. Biomechanical analysis suggests a bite force around 1,500 newtons, enhanced by a specialized tooth shape concentrating force on small areas, allowing it to crack bones and access nutrient-rich marrow. Fossil evidence places Arctotherium across Africa, southern Europe, and parts of Asia, competing directly with early big cats and massive hyenas. Yet it thrived, holding its own in Africa's brutal competitive landscape. Some scientists compare it to Allosaurus, not the biggest, but perhaps the smartest and most strategically dangerous hunter in its ecosystem. The species eventually expanded beyond Africa but vanished around 2.6 million years ago, likely outcompeted as ecosystems changed during the early Ice Age. Ursus spelaeus, the gentle giant. Around 300,000 years ago, another giant emerged in Europe, Ursus spelaeus, the cave bear. This species presents an evolutionary paradox, an animal built like an apex predator that chose to eat plants. Cave bears were enormous. Males averaged 2,200 pounds, reaching 10 to 11 feet tall when upright. Their massive skulls, broad shoulders, and long claws screamed predator. But their teeth told a different story. Unlike carnivores with sharp molars for shearing meat, cave bears had flat, grinding molars. Microscopic tooth wear analysis shows characteristic scratches from processing plant material, grasses, roots, berries, and vegetation. They were herbivores, eating meat only rarely. This doesn't mean they were defenseless. A 2,500-pound bear is terrifying regardless of diet. Those massive claws could disembowel a wolf with one swipe. Their size made them nearly invulnerable. Cave lions and wolf packs avoided confrontation. Cave bears got their name from sheltering in European mountain caves. Thousands of skeletons reveal unique behavior. They hibernated communally, sometimes dozens sharing the same caverns. This might have offered advantages like shared body heat during frigid Ice Age winters. For hundreds of thousands of years, this worked. But around 24,000 years ago, they began declining rapidly. By 20,000 years ago, they were gone. The answer involves both climate and competition. Competition with humans. As modern humans spread across Europe, they needed shelter during harsh winters. The best shelters? Those deep caves that bears had used for millennia. Archaeological evidence shows humans actively displaced cave bears. Combined with climate change shrinking their preferred habitats, human competition was the final straw. The Atlas bear, Africa's last stand. Our final species brings the bear lineage full. Circle to Africa, the Atlas bear, extinct for less than 150 years. The Atlas bear was a brown bear subspecies isolated in the Atlas Mountains of North Africa, evolving unique adaptations for an extremely challenging environment. Unlike Ice Age relatives, it was relatively small, 6 to 7 feet long, weighing 660 to 880 pounds. Its short, sparse, dark fur was adapted for shedding heat rather than insulating against cold. The Atlas Mountains are harsh, rocky, arid, with extreme temperature swings. The Atlas bear survived by being incredibly resilient, primarily nocturnal to avoid daytime heat, eating mainly roots, acorns, and plant matter supplemented with insects and carrion. Roman records mention large bears captured in North Africa for arena spectacles, forced to fight lions or gladiators. This foreshadowed their doom. As human populations grew, habitats shrank. Farmers saw them as threats. Hunters prized their distinctive pelts. By the mid-1800s, they were rare. The last confirmed sighting was in the 1870s. By 1890, they were gone. The Atlas bear's extinction marked the end of bears in Africa, closing a chapter that opened millions of years earlier with Arctotherium. Why they all disappeared. We've met 5 incredible species, each adapted to dominate its environment, yet everyone is gone. Why could creatures so powerful vanish after ruling for hundreds of thousands of years? The answer isn't simple. No single catastrophic event. Instead, a perfect storm of changes began around 50,000 years ago and accelerated between 15,000 and 10,000 years ago. First came dramatic climate change that reshaped the entire planet. The transition from the last glacial maximum, when ice sheets covered much of North America and Europe, to the current warm period was particularly rapid and dramatic. As temperatures rose over just a few thousand years, ice sheets miles thick began melting catastrophically, releasing unprecedented amounts of water into the oceans. Sea levels rose hundreds of feet, drowning coastal plains and creating new coastlines. Entire ecosystems that had existed for tens of thousands of years transformed within mere centuries. An eye blink in geological time, but far too fast for many species to adapt. The cold grasslands and steppes of the Pleistocene, what scientists call the mammoth steppe, vanished almost overnight in evolutionary terms, replaced by dense forests in some regions, expanding deserts in others, and fragmented habitats everywhere. These grasslands had been some of the most productive ecosystems on Earth, supporting massive populations of large herbivores. When they disappeared, so did the prey base that sustained the giant carnivores. This was catastrophic for megafauna. Large herbivores like mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and large horses were perfectly adapted to these open grasslands. As their habitats shrank and fragmented, their populations crashed. And when herbivores declined, the carnivores that depended on them inevitably followed. It's a cruel ecological cascade. Remove the bottom of the food pyramid and everything above collapses. Giant bears' enormous size, once advantageous, became a liability. A 2,000-pound bear needs vastly more food than a 500-pound bear. As prey became scarcer, the largest starved first. But climate alone doesn't explain it. Megafauna had survived previous warming periods. The difference this time was humans. Modern humans arrived in the Americas 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. Within 2,000 years, roughly 80% of large mammal species went extinct. The correlation is striking. In Europe, where humans and megafauna coexisted longer, extinctions were less severe. In Africa, where large mammals evolved alongside humans, extinctions were minimal. This pattern suggests humans played a crucial role. We were apex predators with unprecedented advantages: intelligence, language, tools, fire, and social cooperation. A coordinated group with spears could bring down almost anything. Direct evidence exists: mammoth bones with embedded spear points, cave bear remains showing butchery signs, and archaeological sites with megafauna bones alongside human tools. Scientists call this the overkill hypothesis. Human hunting combined with climate change pushed vulnerable species over the edge. The giant bears fell one by one. Arctodus vanished 11,000 years ago as megafauna disappeared. Arctotherium lasted slightly longer but was gone by 10,000 years ago. Cave bears, displaced from caves with shrinking habitat, went extinct around 20,000 years ago. The Atlas bear lasted until modern times, but couldn't withstand human expansion. Echoes of giants. Today's 8-bear species are shadows of their prehistoric ancestors. The largest, the polar bear, maxes out around 2,500 pounds, barely a third of Arctotherium's size. But these survivors carry echoes of the giants. Intelligence, adaptability, and relative power all hint at their evolutionary legacy. What? Bears lost in size. They gained in survival skills. Modern bears are more behaviorally flexible, omnivorous, and adaptable. They survive in forests, grasslands, mountains, and Arctic ice. They've learned mostly to coexist with humans rather than compete directly, yet they remain under pressure. Habitat loss, climate change, human-wildlife conflict, and poaching. Giant pandas number barely 2,000 in the wild. Andean bears face deforestation. Polar bears confront melting ice. The story of prehistoric giants warns us, even the most powerful creatures can vanish when ecosystems transform faster than evolution can respond. What the giants teach us. The story of Earth's giant bears is ultimately about change, adaptation, and ecosystem balance. For millions of years, bears evolved to fill countless niches across continents. They became sprinters and ambush predators, gentle giants and terrifying hunters. Yet despite their power and adaptability, when change came too rapidly, climate shifts, transforming continents in mere centuries, combined with competition from intelligent, cooperative humans, even they couldn't survive. These 5 species, Arctotherium the Titan, Arctodus the Sprinter, Agriotherium the African Pioneer, Ursus spelaeus the Gentle Cave Dweller, and the Atlas Bear, represent different evolutionary paths. Each was perfectly adapted to its time and place. Each was invincible in its prime, and each vanished when the world moved on. But their story isn't just about extinction, it's about resilience. The bear lineage has survived over 20 million years, weathering continental drift, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and countless ecosystem collapses. Today's survivors, though smaller, carry that legacy forward. They remind us that nature is never static, that dominance is temporary, and that survival belongs to the adaptable rather than the powerful. So which of these 5 prehistoric giants impressed you the most? Was it Arctotherium, the largest land predator in history? Arctodus, the speed demon that could outrun horses? Arctotherium, Africa's forgotten apex predator? The cave bear, Europe's gentle giant? Or the Atlas bear, surviving into modern times only to vanish at human hands? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this journey through prehistoric time fascinating, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into Earth's incredible history. Until next time, keep looking back to understand where we're going, because the past has more to teach us than we often realize.